Hello, my name's Harvey Kane. I'm the developer behind the auto-sized image block for Concrete5. This is just a quick video showing off some of the main features and how to use the block. So let's get underway. I've got a standard default Concrete5 install. I've installed the auto-sized image block and I've uploaded a handful of images up onto the file manager. Now the problem I wanted to solve is that when you add a regular image to a page, it doesn't size itself automatically. And it's okay for us web developers, but we find that our customers struggle with that concept, and we find they're putting ginormous images all over their websites and sort of generally making a mess of things. So that's the problem I wanted to solve. So just to illustrate that, you add a regular image block to your page. You choose an image, one of Van Gogh's reproductions that I did, and you can see it's added it at high res. It's much too big for the area, so we have to come back in and we set a max width of, say, we'll go 400 pixels. See what that does. Okay, too small. Try again. Just give it 500. Still too small. Okay, 550. Too big. 530. And that looks about right. So people might find that process frustrating, which is why I wanted to come up with something a little bit smarter. So let's try that again, but we'll use the auto-sized image block this time. Here we go. Grab the same image, add, and it's automatically sized itself to fit the area that we've put it in, which in this case is the main area. Now we could quite happily grab that and shift it across to the sidebar, give it a couple of seconds, and it's resized itself to fit the sidebar. It's also layout friendly, so if we add a layout to the page, let's try a 2-column layout, 10 pixels of spacing. We can grab that same image and shift it across into that layout, and it'll figure itself out based on that. Grab some content from another tab I've got open. Oops, don't want that. Content block. And then I can resize the image. Every few seconds it recalculates just to see if it's the right size. There we go, that's starting to look close. I'm going to add a few more onto the page now, just for fun. Just a 1-column layout. I want that on top. Okay, so we've got a few of these running on. Let's just publish it and see how it looks. Okay, so not happy about that lack of space between those two blocks there. So let's try and fix that. One of the nice features about the auto-sized image block is you can add some margin. So we're just going to chuck in 20 pixels of bottom margin. Oops. And it's added, surprisingly, 20 pixels of bottom margin. So it's quite a nice little feature for spacing your blocks apart from each other if you need to. Just like the standard image block, we can choose where it links to. So nothing, another page, or an external URL. But what this one also does is it does a lightbox pop-up option, and we're doing that using the colorbox library. So if we save that, and you click on the image, it launches a pop-up, just like that. That's based on colorbox. If you've got more than one auto-sized image blocks on the page, which have got the lightbox pop-up option selected, it creates a little mini slideshow for you. And you get that navigation, so you can flick between all the different auto-sized image blocks on the page. Make like a little mini image gallery thing going on. So that's kind of nice too. Some of the other options are the options for a caption. And we can choose whether or not that caption displays on the page or whether it just works as the alt attribute on the image. And we can also choose to center that caption as well down here. So it just puts a little caption underneath each image, which I think is quite a nice touch. You could also do that using a content block. So we're not talking about major enhancements here, but it's just a nice little touch to do that. We've also got options for borders, drop shadows, and round corners. Let's see what those do. I'm going to exit out of edit mode at this point so we can get a better look at it. So it's chucked a 2 pixel black border, it's put a really subtle drop shadow, and it's put some subtle round corners on there as well. Now these are implemented with CSS3, so they don't work fantastically in old versions of Internet Explorer, so we're talking 6, 7 and 8 here. And it actually says which versions it supports in the block. So if you're using IE7, you're going to get square corners instead of round corners, unless you feel like going to the trouble of installing an extra library to fix that, which is generally more trouble than it's worth. What you can do, and this is where it gets interesting, you've got the option to configure these options. So rather than having to choose what border radius and whatnot you wanted for every single image block, you just tick whether you want the drop shadow, the border and the round corners, and then you configure the options, which is site-wide. So this is an extra page in the dashboard, and we can choose what sort of borders we want, what color borders we want, how round you want your corners to be, if you want them to be round or tight, I guess is the word. And you can configure the offset for the drop shadow, so you can have a little drop shadow which sort of points to the bottom right rather than being equally spread. You can change it to a grey drop shadow if you want it to be a bit more subtle, and increase the blur, play with that, different settings, make it tighter. You can see the preview is adjusting it up there. Save that. That's going to affect all of the auto-sized image blocks across the website. So when I exit edit mode, those settings should kick in. The border's thicker, the radius is different, the drop shadow's on the bottom and the right hand side but not the top and the left. So those are global settings, and you can play with those as much as you like. Because we've added a few pixels of border either side, it's actually made the main image smaller. So when you play with the border settings, it makes the image smaller so that the image block doesn't overflow the area that you've stuck it in. So if you put a ginormous border on, that does make a difference to the size of the image, especially for sidebar images. But it keeps everything look really consistent and tidy, which is a good thing. The other options you can play with is with the lightbox pop-ups. So I've implemented Colorbox because that's my favourite library that I like working with. It's got heaps of options, it's reliable, it works in lots of different browsers, and they give you a handful of themes to choose from. So you can choose here what theme you'd like. They give you 5, come with the package to play with, so knock yourself out on those. There's some demos over here if you'd like to check them out. Or you can use your custom theme. So basically with a custom theme, you copy the colorbox.css plus the images out of the Colorbox download. You stick that into the CSS folder of Concrete5, and then you modify it as you like. And then basically the auto-sized image block will honour that theme that you've chosen for it. But I quite like the theme one as my personal favourite. And then we've got the Colorbox settings. So if you rush off to the documentation on the Colorbox website, you'll see there's a whole lot of technical settings here for developers to play with. If you want to increase the speed in which the thing fades in, or if you want to change the opacity of the background, or if you want to have it preload the next image, all that sort of stuff. Basically it's just a matter of copying, pasting. If you want it to be less or more transparent, you make it something like that instead. And then when we hit save, that's how it is now. I'm going to have to refresh to actually view that. Notice how that background is more transparent than it was previously. So those settings are pretty easy to work with. I think you don't need to get stuck into the code to be able to get access to them. And if for whatever reason Colorbox is not your cup of tea, if you've got your own pop-ups that you're already using across the website, then okay, no problem, just turn off Colorbox and hit save. What that's going to do here, if we refresh the page, we click on that, Colorbox is gone, it's just loading it as a plain old href, and it's up to you to load your lightbox library and link it in to the classes that are on the tag, and that should work fairly easily if you've done this sort of thing before. So those are the major features. I've tried to design a block which resizes itself automatically depending on what area you stick it in or what layout you stick it in. I've added the support for Colorbox pop-ups and made those easy to work with. I've added rounded corners, drop shadows and borders, and a nice easy interface for managing all of that stuff centrally. So I think this is a pretty solid image replacement block that's quite versatile on lots of different websites. I hope you enjoy. Thanks.